Hi, this is Glenda from Beautiful Soaps by Glenda, and if you follow me on Instagram, you may or may not remember that a couple months ago I shared a small video of polar bear pictures that I was browsing as I was getting ready to make this soap and I was working on the embeds. And towards the end, I show the embeds that I had at that time, and the picture behind it was the inspiration for them. I made them with soap dough, which is basically cold processed soap that has not been hardened yet, so it remains soft and pliable. And now I'm getting ready to make the big batch of soap where I'm going to put these embeds. I start by measuring my fragrance oil, which I will be using apple cinnamon from Bulk Apothecary. And on the left, you can see my recipe. I'm going to include a link to this in the description box below in case you care to see. I have prepared the oils, I melted them, and they are at 43 Celsius or 109 degrees Fahrenheit. The light water solution is at room temperature, which is 24 Celsius or about 74, 76 Fahrenheit. I start by mixing the light water solution into the oils. This is basically distilled water mixed with lye. Lye burns. That's why I'm wearing gloves, and I'm also wearing goggles. I'm wearing closed toe shoes and long sleeves. But yet, you can see that my glove has slipped a little bit on the right, and there's a little bit of skin exposed. And in my experience, that would be the spot where I will get some accidental soap butter and it will burn. So I'm gonna take a brief moment to put on my leather protective sleeve. It's just something quick that I made, and it's helped me a lot. I will also be using rosemary oleo resin, which is an extract, I believe, from rosemary, and it serves as an antioxidant so that the soap doesn't develop DOS or dreaded orange spots. Lately, though, I just add it to the oils when I do a master bath. I'm also going to add tetrasodium edta to the soap. This is used at a very small percentage, 0.5% of the total batch, and it is a chelator. It will help the soap perform better in hard water conditions. I start by stirring the oils and the lye water solution with a spatula, and then when I use the stick blender, I use it in low. I only use it for about 15 seconds, and then I stir it for about 30 seconds. And I repeat this until I feel that I have reached emulsion phase, which took me a while with this soap butter. It took me about 5 minutes, probably because it was a large quantity of oils. I mean, larger than I usually work with. I start checking by looking at the shaft of the stick blender and seeing if the emulsion breaks apart on it. And right now it looks like it's breaking apart, and I don't see any sign of trace on the surface. So I'm going to blend it a little bit more. And then it looks like it's finally coating the shaft of the stick blender more evenly, so it looks like it has reached emulsion phase. It also has a more even color, so I should be ready to add the fragrance. This fragrance accelerates a lot, so I try to keep the soap at just emulsion, or if anything at very, very light trace. Before I forget though, I want to separate a small amount of the soap butter into a different container. This portion is not going to have fragrance added to it. And then to the rest, I'm going to add the colorant, which to be honest, I wish I had put a whole lot more. I feel that the final soap lacks a little bit of color in that aspect. And this fragrance, apple cinnamon, also discolors a little bit. So I think a darker color here would have helped disguise the discoloration. I'm gonna set this apart for a minute, and I'm coming back to the portion that I separated at the beginning. I'm going to add a little bit of white mica mixed with oil so that it has a white color and it resembles snow. I also added a little bit of titanium dioxide because I felt like I needed a brighter white, and sometimes the white mica, you need a lot more to achieve that white. Now here comes the fragrance. I'm going to add it to the soap batter. I'm going to blend it in and then just pour the whole thing straight into the mold, which is what I have it right next to it. And as you can see, it's very fluid as I'm mixing the fragrance into it, but I have not even finished scraping my mold when it's already at medium or heavy trace. So in less than 2 minutes, it looks like this. It already has that matte look to it, and it's not moving. It's solidified enough that I can do the second part of the design. But the white soap doesn't look like it's ready for it. It seems very fluid still, since this part didn't have any fragrance. So I'm going to stick blend it a little bit more to see if I can make it become thicker. And by stick blending in such a small container, I created a lot of bubbles. So now I have to tap it to see if the bubbles can pop. I have here super sparkles and viral glitter, and I'm going to add a little bit of that as well on the surface of the soap before adding the snow. And it does feel like it's thick enough to be added, so I'm going to start by adding a strip at the bottom, and then the marks that you see on the mold, the black marks, represents where I'm going to cut the soaps. Some of them are going to be horizontally and some of them are going to be vertically, or they are kind of like sideways. When I'm done, it looks like this, and I'm going to add a little bit of glitter again to the top so that it looks as if the snow is glistening. Next comes the positioning of the igloo. To make the igloos, I use melt and pour, which I did not have to melt. I simply cut it into slices with a knife, and then with a round cookie cutter, I cut these partial circles, and later with a pointy tool, I made marks to simulate blocks, and on the back, I rubbed them with mica. Some of them were blue and some of them were silver, and I liked the blue ones better. Something interesting that I learned about polar bears is that their fur is not white. It appears white to us because of light reflection, but in reality, it is transparent. And their skin, their actual skin, is black. So, I thought that was interesting. I do think I waited too long to cut this soap. I had a hard time making it go through the loaf splitter, and if you remember, this is the one that I put together. If you haven't seen that video and you're curious, I will post a link down below. And what I regret about this loaf cutter is that I think it is too narrow. Like, there's not a lot of room, and from what I can see in this video, I think I should have put more screws at the bottom to keep the pieces of wood more firm. And obviously I should have cut it sooner because the fragrance as it is accelerates. So this is ready usually to be cut the next morning, and I think I waited too long. I did damage one of the polar bear noses or face, so he needed a little bit of reconstructive surgery, but I'm glad to announce everything came out good. I will show you next how they look like a couple months later, so you can see how they have darkened a little bit more because of the vanillin content and the fragrance. And this is it. So they're looking a little bit more greenish. But anyway, thank you for joining me today. If you want to subscribe, you're welcome to do that. You can do it by clicking on the logo on this screen. Or if you just want to check out more videos, you can check out any of these.